Let's bring in MS Now's Laura Hafley in St. Paul, Minnesota, MS Now Capitol Hill reporter Michael Schnell, and former ICE acting director John Sandwig. So, Michael, midnight is still 14 hours away, but procedurally, Congress has already run out the clock. Were the two sides even close?
Yeah, Anna, procedurally, but also physically, as you mentioned, Congress has already left town. The House and Senate broke for recess yesterday, essentially because they knew that they weren't anywhere close to a deal and it wasn't worth staying in town. In fact, that's what Senate Majority Leader John Thune had said, that he was sending his members home because a deal was not in reach. Essentially, where we are is, we'll remember that last week, Democrats kicked this negotiation off by unveiling those 10 demands that they are looking for as part of these negotiations over the Department of Homeland Security. It includes federal agents removing their masks, turning on their body cameras, instituting judicial warrants, in addition to establishing an official code of conduct for these federal agents. Very quickly, Republicans had panned those demands. As you mentioned, judicial warrants, a big sticking point, but also taking off those masks, which was something that Democrats thought would be an easy concession as part of these talks. A lot of Republicans are saying they won't get on board with even that because they're afraid about federal agents getting docked. So after Democrats had unveiled these 10 demands, Republicans came back with their counterproposal, the White House sending an outline to congressional Democrats earlier this week. Very quickly, again, Schumer and Jeffries had panned that proposal, calling it incomplete. Then later this week, we had seen they had sent official legislative text to Democrats, and Jeffries just yesterday said that his initial understanding of this was that it does not go far enough in terms of those changes that Democrats are demanding as part of DHS funding. So where we are right now is both sides no closer to a deal. As you mentioned, DHS funding running out in just 14 hours. We are all but certain to be headed for a shutdown by the Department of Homeland Security at midnight tonight.
So what would actually be affected? Because it doesn't seem like it will be ICE.
Yeah, so as part of the sprawling bill that Republicans passed last summer, it included about $75 billion for ICE. That was part of an $178 billion that DHS got overall. So ICE and CBP are just going to be funded for a while. They have plenty of cash on hand to take care of their immigration crackdown that they want to continue. What's going to be impacted in the coming weeks are things like TSA, things like FEMA. Now, look, that isn't expected to come immediately. There are still a few weeks until, for example, TSA agents need to get their paychecks and when we can start to see some of the impacts of this shutdown. But whenever we're in these shutdowns, we always look for things that we call pressure points. What are the pain points and the pressure points that could lead both sides towards an agreement with ICE and CBP funded for the time being? And we're not expecting TSA to really be feeling this impact for a while. FEMA also has some cash on hand. We're not expecting any of those pain points to pop up anytime soon, which means we could be in the long haul for this DHS shutdown.
So, John, you ran ICE, and Michael just went through the list of reforms Democrats are asking for. Are lawmakers focusing on the right things here? Are these reforms going to restore credibility to DHS?
You know, Anna, it's going to be a long road to get back that credibility. As you know, when you conduct the operations the way they were being conducted in Minneapolis, there's an erosion of public trust. This shutdown is a direct byproduct of that. It is going to be very hard for Congress to legislate the kind of reforms and really fix the problem. It's going to take leadership at ICE and at DHS. It's going to take re-implementing a culture where public safety and protecting all of America is the goal of the organization. That's something that's not going to be able to be done through legislation. Certainly, there are reforms there that are going to be valuable. As I've said before as well, I would love to see Congress demand more than anything data about who's being arrested, data about whether or not what their immigration violations are and their nexus to the criminal justice system, so we can evaluate whether these operations are worth it. But look, this is a direct result of the manner in which those operations were conducted. And the sad part about this is you could have done immigration enforcement without the chaos we saw on the streets of Minneapolis.
Laura, Minnesota officials are now calling for the federal government to pay for the damage done in Minneapolis. There's emotional trauma. Businesses are hurting. Are you seeing signs of this drawdown? And where does the community go from here?
Yeah, Anna, we are seeing signs, and it's why it's so important for us to have our crews on the ground here. I was able to witness in real time reaction from protesters after the announcement was made that this surge is over. Anna, they were not celebrating. If anything, they were skeptical, wondering if this is even real. I was able to ask the governor about that. He's promising they will be gone by latest early next week. In the meantime, the fallout is significant. Small businesses in the area have lost thousands of dollars because their customers are afraid to leave the house. Governor Walz promising a financial relief package, and like you said, he wants the Trump administration to help pay for it. It's unclear how much convincing that will take. The other issue we're seeing, school systems. The absence rates are astronomical, and Anna, in the public school systems in Minnesota, funding is tied to how many students you have. So if you're losing students, you're potentially losing funding. And then, of course, the families still wondering where their loved ones have gone. We spoke to an attorney in Hennepin County. She says one thing is clear: Minnesota knows how to move forward. Take a listen.
I think it's going to take a long, long time for people, and I won't even say it to recover from this. I don't know how you recover from this. I don't know how 5-year-old children recover from being afraid to go to school. Businesses have closed. People who were here with no records, who were just working and got forcibly removed from their community, and their children left behind.
And I want to make one thing clear. Tom Homan yesterday said that ICE agents, some of them, will remain in Minnesota and be pre-positioned around the state back to pre-surge numbers. That's not what protesters have asked for. They want ICE out completely. It seems like they're not going to get that. Anna?
Laura Hafley, thanks for your reporting. John, just picking up where she left off, Tom Homan insists some quick reaction force is going to stay in place to deal with, quote, agitators. Is that ICE's purview?
It's certainly not what you want ICE agents to be doing. I think a lot of the problems and a lot of those violent interactions we saw with protesters, where both, protesters were hurt, obviously 2 deaths, agents were hurt, were a byproduct of the fact that that's just not what ICE does, right? That's just not what ICE or Border Patrol are trained to do. That public order policing, that intersection between what constitutes First Amendment rights and what constitutes, impeding a federal officer is just not what ICE is experienced in doing. I will say this, Anna, I think that one of the things I think Tom Homan has done well in Minneapolis, it appears that more of that type of policing is now being done by the state and locals. Like, there's better cooperation going on. I just think that's a byproduct of talking to each other, right? Rather than having this political rhetoric going back and forth, let the law enforcement professionals talk to one another. Certainly, I guess what I would say about this, though, it remains to be seen how they want to deploy these forces. Mm-hmm. Certainly my preference, strong preference, would be to let state and locals handle the protest activity. But I think that if you diminish that footprint, get back to more targeted operations, hopefully you're going to lower the temperature, but also lower the number of those protests to where these additional forces won't be needed.
But then what's going to happen next, I think, is a big question on so many minds, because Homan says ICE and CBP may be leaving Minnesota, but will go to other cities. How's that going to go if they don't address these concerns that are tanking the public support right now on the issue of immigration?
Yeah, it's hard for me to, I watch those press conferences. There is clearly a divide within the administration. And per various media reporting, it looks like there's the Secretary Noem way of doing things and the people like Homan, the people with actual more law enforcement experience way. What is going to be interesting to me is to see, Tom Homan has been consistent. He wants to see targeted operations, prioritizing the worst. He's on board with arresting everybody, but he says we're going to go out there and target the worst offenders first into these targeted kind of operations that we saw, frankly, during the Obama administration and through ICE's history, really. I don't know if we've seen the end of these surges, right? I mean, there were real differences on it with the way they did this. They had these roving patrols of Border Patrol agents led by Greg Bavino, this very aggressive confrontations with protesters that resulted in people dying. I don't know if the administration is done with those and the Homan vision is going to now take over nationwide. If it is, I think we're going to see ICE agents deployed back to their field offices doing the targeted operations. But again, that's the big question.
Well, we'll stay close because you have such good insight. John Sandweg, thank you. Kevin Fry, thanks for the reporting. Michael Schnell, thank you.